During the fight, my wife yelled that I was not my daughter's father and that he was a better F too. Later, she said I was just joking. But I was unable to let go. My wife and I have a 6-year-old daughter. We've been married for almost 9 years. We got into a really big argument, which isn't unusual for us these days. We've been on the verge of divorce multiple times, but always end up changing our minds this time. She got so mad that she yelled at the top of her lungs, "She's not even your daughter, and he was a better freak too." She being our daughter, of course. My wife's facial expression told me she immediately realized what she said. Then she claimed she was just mad and said it just to be mean. It's not true, blah, blah, blah. It made me start to think about when our daughter was conceived. We had been having marital problems even back then. We had actually kind of informally separated for a short time, and I was pretty sure I was done with the whole thing, but we both changed our minds. I can't help but wonder if she was with somebody else during that time. She could have just said what she said to be cruel, but that's a pretty serious thing to say. I hate myself that I'm looking at my daughter and wondering if features I thought she got from me really aren't for me at all. She looks so much like my wife that it's hard to see much of anyone else in her at all. Anyway, I love my daughter. I love being a dad. Her dad. I feel like I was meant to do it. We have such a great relationship. She loves her mom. But my daughter and I just have a special bond that my wife has said she's jealous of. That might be why she said what she did. I don't know, it wouldn't change how I felt about my daughter, but my wife would definitely no longer be my wife. It scares the Karen out of me to think that somebody else could have some sort of parental right to my kid. Even though I'm still legally her father regardless of DNA. It's not like a random guy is going to want to come along all these years later and try to establish paternity anyway, but it's still unsettling. I'm probably overthinking it, and my wife was most likely just trying to be extra cruel, which is her defense mechanism in arguments. But I just wish I could stop thinking about it. Pertinent remarks. Take a DNA test. Else, you'll constantly be curious. Though I'm considering it, a part of me doesn't even want to believe the ridiculous, mean comments she makes when upset. Perhaps I don't want to know the truth either. When I told her I would do one, she said, "No, I was just kidding, please don't." Then she tried to make me feel bad about it. Women don't just say to take the test as soon as possible. Please take note that your wife can say some pretty hurtful things when she's upset. The issue here is your wife and your relationship with her. She claimed to have said this to hurt you, but now she's trying to talk you out of getting a DNA test. She tells me there's a great chance you're not the biological father, but your relationship is toxic as wise. Usually, I wouldn't say I like to take that road either. I typically recommend communication and therapy working together, but this is emotional manipulation going on from your wife, at least possibly from you too, since we don't know what you say to hurt her in arguments. You love your child, so stop exposing her to negativity and hate. You and your wife are no good for each other, and you're showing your daughter that a relationship is all about this. Your relationship seems like a nasty addiction, but given how much you both want to remain in it, perhaps it's time for rehab. Opie, I don't know that she cheated. I never suspected that she did back then. Not until now. It's weird. We unofficially separated, and I told her I didn't want to be with her anymore. I actually went out on a date with somebody else because I genuinely thought I was 100% done with my marriage. It was a wrong move to go on a date with another woman before I was actually divorced. But I'd already told my wife our marriage was over. My wife found out about this pretty innocent date. I didn't sleep with the other woman or anything like that. My wife flipped out, came to work and started screaming in front of my coworkers. Found the other woman I went on a date with and went to her place of work, but luckily the woman wasn't there. She broke a bunch of my things, kept saying, "Who does that? Who goes on a date while they're still married?" Accused me of being every horrible name in the book. Comment, "That's your daughter. Any idiot can make a kid, takes a real man to be a daddy, but you have the upper hand with that fight. I don't think you should stay with your wife without some actual counseling separately. First, then maybe together, but man, it's complicated as raising kids while divorced. The dad almost always gets screwed. I have a 17-year-old who I only saw 6 to 7 days a month since he was 4, and I missed out on so much. You never get that time back, make it work if you can. Opie, this is one reason why we haven't divorced yet. Neither of us wants to only see our daughter part-time. But I'm starting to realize we've been selfish in that regard. And in the end, if it's better for our daughter to only be with each of us part-time, then we'll have to suck it up. I'm just devastated by the idea of not coming home to my family every day. Update. Some of you may have read my original post regarding my wife screaming that I wasn't our daughter's father during a recent argument. I got some great advice, plus some crazy advice. My inbox has blown up with people messaging me to offer advice, suggestions, and encouragement. I realized that even though a large part of me really didn't want to know if she was telling the truth, I had to find out for the sake of my daughter. If I wasn't her biological father, there was just too great of a chance that she'd accidentally find out one day, via an ancestry test, or whatever new technology they have, 15 years from now, that she might want to do for fun. I wouldn't want her to find out that way. I wouldn't want to find out that way. It was also important to know, just to protect both of us in a legal sense. I had to know just to be prepared. I've been holding off on sharing this update until now because my original post received a lot of traffic, and I never know who might have seen it. She purchased an at-home test from the store, believing it was a C19 test done in the mouth. They guarantee results online in 2 days and offer sample process tracking. She's my daughter, and she's always going to be my daughter, but biologically she's mine. I've never felt so relieved by a test result in my life. The more I thought about it after sharing my story here, the more I started to believe my wife's statement. She was undoubtedly attempting to hurt me when she said it deeply. Still, I began to suspect that she had slept with someone else shortly after our daughter was conceived, and that she either didn't know the true father or had been raised to believe that I wasn't the biological father. My wife wasn't aware that I had completed the test, so I pretended to have completely forgotten what she said. I confronted her today since I knew this was the last chance to see her for a while. I told my wife a white lie because I didn't want our daughter to be home when I told her what I had done. I told her that we wanted to talk about what she said about me, not hiring our daughter's father, that it upset me, that I couldn't get over it, and that I had taken a DNA test. I showed her the test box brought up on my phone with my online, but not close enough for her to read the results. Her panic was obvious in that moment. I knew she hadn't just made the statement to hurt me. There was something behind it. I told her that our daughter wasn't mine, and I wanted to know who the hell she slept with during that time. Did he knew he had a kid? How long had she known about this? And did she know that it was considered paternity fraud? She started crying, and was obviously so stunned by all of this that she didn't even ask me to see the actual test results. She should have demanded that because she would have easily been able to see that I was bluffing. I at least would have got satisfaction from scaring her, and essentially having proof for myself that she had been with somebody else, and had at least believed that there was a good chance my daughter wasn't biologically mine. No, she told me who she slept with, begged for my forgiveness, begged me not to tell him about any of it, told me what a great father I am, and that I'm the only man she wants to be. The father of our daughter told me she'd do anything as long as I swore to never tell this other guy the truth. This other guy is somebody who I grew up with and was friends with. I haven't talked to him in years now. At the time that our marriage was on the rocks and our daughter was conceived, I had been hanging out with him and a few other buddies pretty regularly. She supposedly couldn't stand him. He was a buddy, but he wasn't the kind of guy I would want my sister or a close friend who I genuinely respected to go out with. He was beautiful and knew it, making him arrogant, yet women still adored him. After my wife and I learned she was pregnant, our relationship turned around, and for a while I stopped hanging out with him because she couldn't stand him, and he started to irritate me. He's married now and has 2 younger children than my daughter, and I've heard from others that he cheated on his wife and also developed a drug problem. He slept with God knows how many women and has contracted a few STDs that I was aware of over the years. I stay far away from him, and although he's tried reaching out, I've kept my distance because I just don't respect the guy and think he's a scumbag. They had slept together a few times after she found out I went on a date with another woman. She says she was so hurt by what I did, and although she hadn't planned to sleep with him, he convinced her to do it. She claims she didn't enjoy it, and she's felt disgusted about it ever since she felt pretty sure that he was our daughter's biological father this entire time, but never wanted him involved in our lives, or for him to have any rights or access whatsoever to our daughter. She told me she'd do anything, including an amicable divorce, giving me full access to our daughter, letting me keep our house, and not asking for any support if I just agreed to be our daughter's father, and to never say a word to the slimy Poe she thought produced our kid. I told her the truth after that. I could have continued to hold it over her head, but why she's mad that I lied to her. I did lie, but she thought she had been lying to me about our daughter's paternity for 6+ years. So I call that even in the end. She ended up sobbing out of relief for several minutes straight, and we hugged while she cried. But I don't forgive any of what she's done now. I'm going to get a full panel of STI tests next week. I'm terrified to know where his D has been. It's practically been in about every hole in our entire town, not to mention the entire college campus where he went to school. I've heard plenty of the stories he's a bastard, and I'm sad to say that he was revived after his last supposed OD last year editing. To add that yes, my wife and I were informally separated at the time that I went on one date, and she subsequently slept with this guy. We didn't actually agree to see other people, but I told her I was done with our marriage. And in my mind, it was over. We were still living together and sleeping in the same bed, so the lines were sort of fuzzy. I went on a date, and it was a pretty innocent date. I didn't sleep with the woman or anything like that. My wife found out and went ballistic, screaming, chasing me down at work, calling me cold-hearted and saying, "Who does that? Who does that?" She begged me to stay with her again and not divorce her because she was so distraught.